We were just a bunch of nerdy kids who ignored the haters. We took their ridicule and we built on it. And when some of us gave up, well, we built on that too. Built resilience, built on a mission to make things a little better every day until the users came. Then the haters were VCs who scoffed at our audacity. This just isn't the way things are done. But we kept building. Users turned into teams, turned into companies, running their entire businesses on our apps. Then the software giants came after us. We weren't proven, we weren't fully featured, our radical cloud model wasn't secure. But we built on. And today, as companies adopt the cloud to move faster, teams are finding themselves slowed down by each other's efforts. The skeptics are claiming we'll never develop innovation at scale. But now, DevOps have come to the cloud, ushering in a new era of transformation. Companies can release on demand across hundreds of environments, innovating faster with fewer conflicts and fewer disruptions. There will always be challenges. There will always be naysayers. And we'll build on.
So we'll be discussing how we can create Salesforce browser extensions to have more productivity. And to give a small introduction, I work as a lead developer / consultant at Accenture. And these are my LinkedIn as well as Twitter IDs. I'm mostly active at LinkedIn. So if you want any help or any queries, you can ping me on LinkedIn. I am active on that portal. And this is the agenda for today. And we'll go through all this, and by the end of this session you would be able to create your own extension. That is my guarantee for sure. And I will also show you some existing very useful extensions which other people in the community have built. So first of all, the question is what are browser extensions? So the browser extensions are they are small plugins, or you can say add-ons, which you can directly add into a browser. So all browsers like Internet Explorer, Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari support this. And what you can do is they have a very wide opportunity to define the experience for the user. You can change the experience, you can change how the user interacts with the browser or the user interface, and do any functionality. If there is some limited functionality which the browser provide, you can add more functionality to it using browser extensions. And then why do we need browser extensions, particularly for Salesforce? So to answer that, the first reason is you want to build some features which Salesforce does not provide yet, which it doesn't support. Could be they would support it coming releases, or they might never support it. You can create that using your browser extensions and share it with your clients or even the developer team. And second is, if you want to automate any business process or any developer task or any testing task, it can be done through browser extensions. Third is, the reason why Salesforce Idea Exchange exists is so that you can collaborate and you can submit an idea for improving the product. If there is a limitation, you can put in your idea, it gets voted. And that is the reason for which Salesforce Idea Exchange exists, and Salesforce develops on that feature. Similarly, if something is still in idea phase, you can convert it into a functionality supported in Salesforce through a browser extension. Okay, and the last thing would be, obviously everyone would like to earn money. Okay, and you can do that through browser extension. So if you have been very active in the news, PayPal acquired a company called Honey for $4 billion. It did not have any mobile application or any, you can say, a desktop application.
Hey Maninder,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you move your the video box that you have somewhere below so that the audience can see the screen?
Now it's fine.
Yeah, I think this is good. Thank you.
Yeah. So this Honey is a browser extension. That's it, and it was acquired for $4 billion by PayPal. And you can see how much you can, if your browser extension is really great and Salesforce or any other company likes it, they can acquire it. So coming to the skills required, what is needed to build a browser extension? So if you are already good in web technologies, front-end web technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that is all you need. But if still you are not good, like me, who has recently started into JavaScripting and all, still you can create a browser extension, because I have created one and I will help you create one today. The minimum requirement is basic HTML, CSS, and some browser APIs, which you can find in the documentation of Google Chrome or MST and Firefox. And if you want to go into advanced, you can learn any framework like Angular, React, Advanced JS, jQuery, any other thing for building a website which you use, like you can use any JavaScript libraries, anything. It's up to your imagination, how creative you want to be. And now let's start building one. Before that, let me help you with the architecture. So this is a simple architecture of a extension, not specific to Chrome, but all extensions for all browser like Opera, Microsoft Edge, Chrome, and Firefox. So there is a manifest file which contains which registers all the permissions which you want your extensions to have, the file paths to your images, to your directories, and the features which you want to configure. So there are a lot of things in this file. It is JSON formatted file, and all the features you can go through the documentation. We'll go through this in the demo as well. And you have a background script. Okay, this script you can consider it as a controller. If you build a Aura component, okay, in Salesforce, so you have a Aura controller which handles all the events. You can consider background script same as that. It handles all the events from the user interface and do the processing. So for each extension, there is only one background script. That is the important point to note. Then we have UI elements. UI elements would be the point of contact which the user would use to interact with your add-on or extension. It could be a button, it could be a page action, a right-click context menu, or it could be a, you can say, keyboard shortcut, anything. It could be a key press. Okay, and then we have content script. So the content scripts are also JavaScript files, and each extension can have many files. That is up to you how you want to use it. The important thing is it can parse your DOM. It can read through your DOM, the HTML structure, whatever you see on the website. It can read through it and share the information with the background script so that it can do the action based on that. And the second point to note is, so suppose if you have different, for example, I have opened my browser. So if I have an extension, the content script on this tab would run independent of this tab. Okay, so each tab would have its own instance of content script page, whereas the background page is only one instance. That is an important point to note. And the options page, it is used to store the settings. For example, you want to store the setting. For example, you want to store the custom shortcuts for a browser extension. So you can save it here in this options page, or you want to ask the user whether do you want to enable this feature or disable this feature. You can store that in this page and utilize the options page. Like you can write if does the user want to use the login feature. If he has enabled it, so you can write your code. If this flag is enabled, only then enable the login feature. So options page is used for that. And the stack is, like I mentioned, the manifest file. It would contain the registration of all the scripts: user interface script, content script, background script, images, everything. And at the bottom, we have the background script, which deals with the event handling. And then we have the content script, which is independent or specific to a tab. And then we have user interface, through which the user interacts. So it goes like this: the user interacts at this layer. The content script would see the DOM and get the information from the tab and then send it to background script to do the processing. And they all can talk to each other through message passing. On the right hand side, you can see that this is a window of Chrome or any browser. Okay, and the content scripts run for each tab. They have access to DOM, which I said, background pages at the backend, and we have dev tools like we do a Chrome in Chrome. If we do right click inspect, so this is the developer tool. You can create applications which deal with this as well. And Salesforce has created one Lightning Inspector. If you have worked on this, that is also a Chrome extension. So you can talk to they can talk to each other using message passing. Okay. And yeah, the three essential files. So all the files which you work in extension are JavaScript files. The background.js, content.js, and the popup.js, which I will show you what it all means. But this diagram essentially helps you to understand that they can talk to each other through message passing, and they can use local storage of browsers as well. So yeah, so these guys are excited to build one. So I think you are also too. Yeah. So first of all, I will show you what the use case is. The use case here is when you are logged into any Salesforce org and you open Workbench. What Workbench does is it would automatically, so if I select production and click agree, and if I click log into Salesforce. So if you have more than one instance of Salesforce org opened, you will not know to which instance Workbench will log in. So for example, if you're logged into dev, LQA, and pre-prod, it will automatically log you into maybe dev, but you want to log into pre-prod. So that is a limitation in Workbench which you cannot control. Okay, and also if I log out of this Workbench, it will log me out of the Salesforce instance itself, which I do not want. So to overcome this feature, we can, or this limitation, we can build a Chrome extension, which I will show you today how to do that. So I will give you a demo first. So this is the right context menu. Here I have an extension which places a new option here, login to Workbench. When I click it, it will open a new private window, go into the page, automatically select whether it is production org or the sandbox org, and check the required flags and click on login. And it will automatically populate your user ID or the username from the org which you have logged in. So this is all automation I have done. You can also put in the passwords here, but for security reasons I haven't done it. You can get it from the user and make it whole automation. Okay, so I have done it. So my user passwords are stored within Salesforce, or the browser save functionality. So I can just click on login and it will automatically log me into Workbench. Okay. Yeah, so I'm logged into the same sales org from which I right clicked and use this action. So if I log out of this page, it wouldn't affect my normal sales org. It wouldn't log me out. So we have overcome two limitations. One is to control in which org the Workbench would log in. Second is if we log out of the Workbench, it shouldn't log out from the Salesforce org. Okay, so how I have developed it. So like I said, there are mainly three files. This is the manifest.json file. And the structure you would have is, the structure is very simple. In a root folder, so you have a root folder, Salesforce Workbench, which I have named it. You can name it anything. And the root folder should have a manifest file. And then you can have any directory structure or nested structure, but the manifest file has to be in the root folder. And the manifest file, like I said, it would give the name of the tool, the description, any URL, the home page. Mainly, you have to put in the scripts, the background script. So background script, you have to mention here that these all JavaScript files would work as a background script. That means they would have only one instance of the code. And here the content scripts, you have to mention the content script which can access your page. And like I mentioned here, matches. So this content script would work only on workbench.salesforce/star and force.com and this. So you have to mention these permissions. And page action and permissions are that your extension needs permission to access your tabs, your context menu, the right click, the clip, the copyboard, the clipboard, the cookies, and all other things. And these are commands to assign shortcuts. Okay, there are many more commands here, but that depends on the functionality which you build. So like here I have mentioned, I have registered the content script, background script. What my background script does is, to give you an overview, the basic functionality to work with Salesforce extension is you need to have a session ID, which is required to call the APIs. So I'm doing the same thing. So when I right click, yeah. So when I right click, this is the right click context menu, which you will see a login to Workbench, and you see this label when I right click here. Okay, in the when I showed you the demo, it will call this function. What this function will do is it will open a new private window. Okay, now before that, obviously you want whether the sandbox, whether the org is sandbox or a production org. So what you can do is you can do a REST API call. Okay, so how to do a REST API call? You first have to get the session ID. So the session ID is stored in cookies for each and every website, even for Salesforce. So there is a common looping, or the you can say a specific code to loop through the cookies and get the session ID. I will share this code on GitHub as well. So what this function does is it gets the session ID from that cookie, okay, and then uses that cookie to make a REST call. So in the REST call, what I'm doing is I'm just using a query. Select is sandbox from organization. If you run this in your org, you will get to know that so if you run this in the org, it will say false. Okay, and if it is a sandbox, it will say true. That is all I need for my extension. I got that this is not a sandbox, it's a production org. Okay, fine. Then what I need is I need the logged in user's ID. So I do another REST API query to get the user info. Okay, the main scripts are here, which are actually calling the they are calling the REST APIs. If you can want to go through this. So here I'm building the URL with the server URL, the services, the API level, the query, and the inquiry I want. So these are just the REST API calls which I do, and it depends on your imagination what all you can do with the REST API calls. This is just the starting which I'm showing you how you can build one. Okay, so once we get the user ID, then we have is the then what we do is we launch a new private window, and in the private window what we do is we fill in the boxes. For example, when we open a Workbench here, when I log out here, you obviously have to populate whether it is sandbox or production. So I do it using browser automation within JavaScript. I mean, you can use JavaScript to automate this. Since it is production, I will select production. 48, I agree to terms, and I click on login with Salesforce. This all I'm doing with JavaScript in my code. Okay, and I populate it with the user ID, and you can populate it with the password and click on the login as well. That is all I'm doing in this JavaScript files. Okay. So that is what the main knowledge which you have to get from here is how to retrieve the session ID, which you can see from my code, and how to call the REST APIs. If you are good at that, you are good to build anything in Salesforce browser extensions. Okay, and yeah, so that is the code. And coming back to the slides. We did it, and that is how we can build any Salesforce Chrome extension based on the functionality which you want. And the next is the compatibility. For example, you build a Chrome extension for Chrome browser, but whether it would be compatible with other browsers or not. To answer that, I would recommend that you create an extension for Chrome first, because since it is the most popular browser and it can be easily ported to others. So if any user is using Opera, he can directly install a Chrome extension without making any code changes. Even for Microsoft Edge, they can directly use it. No code changes are required, since all of those are based on Chromium architecture. For Firefox, you might have to make minor changes, but most of the code would remain same. But for Safari, you have to, since the architecture is very different, so you have to create this extension from scratch. So I would say if you create a Chrome extension, you can make it work for all three popular browsers, Opera, Microsoft Edge, and Firefox. And not many people know this, but we can also use extensions on mobile. It's not supported with the official Chrome browser, but yes, how you can do it is, I have tested it on Android and I particularly use it for my projects as well. So there is an open source Kiwi browser which is based on the same Chromium architecture on which Chrome is built. So this browser actually supports Chrome extensions within Salesforce. I have a screenshot for that as well here. So if you see this screenshot, I've opened the Salesforce Inspector in my mobile browser and I can do queries, I can see the record data, I can do anything what I can do in desktop. It's on the go. You can use it on your browser, on your mobile. And I have created this list for some extension which I particularly use in Salesforce, and they are all Lightning enabled. I have shared the link on the GitHub repository as well, which is here. And yeah, with the links, and you can go through all this and test those. I will give a demo of a few of them since we do not have much time. Yeah. Yes, and the demo of actual use cases, yeah, we still have time left, yeah. So one of the use case I would say people here, people usually see in the projects is, for example, if you are dealing with pick list values, which is, okay. So while I'm doing this, you can go through this. I'm using one of the Salesforce login Cinnabo extension to directly log in into my orgs, and we can color code the tabs as well. So I have color coded it with red color. So you can say it's red color, okay. Go to the object manager account. So SLA is the parent value. So I'm giving a use case of a dependent pick list. SLA is the parent value and it has a sub value upsell opportunity. Okay, so this is a dependent pick list, and if you have worked with it, you would understand what this matrix is. It would you have to select the valid values for parent and child. But Salesforce doesn't provide a way to export this value, this list for analysis or for backup. The only way you can do is you can see the screen, open Notepad, and just type in here what are the valid values. The valid values are highlighted in orange color. But with the extension I have built, this is the only extension which is free in the Salesforce community, which has this functionality. You right click, click on export pick list metrics. It will parse all these fields and it will download it as a CSV file. When you open it, so it took less than 3 seconds. But if you do it manually, it can take you more than 2 hours. And if you do it in different orgs, you can understand how much time it would take. So I have automated this because that was what we were doing required in the project. I was actually spending a lot of time to actually note this down, take a backup, compare it with other orgs. So for example, now I have selected that for black value, which is the parent value, these are the child. I can also confirm that. I can go to this, click on black, and see for the black values, only the orange values, V9, V10 until C8. See, V9, V10 until C8. See how easy it was. This all is done through a browser extension. Other use cases, for example, let's come to here. One of the limitation which you can see even in ID Exchange. So if you want to get ideas to build extension, you can always visit ID Exchange and you will get a lot of ideas from there. One of the idea posted is that there is no way to get the count of records in a list view. Okay, but I have built one for that. Right click, go to this context menu and you can click on count records. In the background, it is actually doing a REST API call and it is showing me that there are 19 records in here. You can select any other list view and it works on every list view, custom object or standard object, anything. Again, count records. So there are total 5, it will give 5. Salesforce doesn't provide a way to do this, but what you can modify it, you can show the count of records here itself. So for that, you need to know how to parse the DOM and show the result here itself, so that I don't have to right click and do it. But as soon as the user clicks on a list view, the record is updated here. So that depends how good user interface you want to build and how good you are at. Okay, other functionalities, for example, if you want to copy the record ID, obviously you would go here, right click, copy. Okay, but the other way is right click, copy record ID. Sorry, this wouldn't go where this is a list view. If you are in a particular record page, so this is a record detail page. I right click here, go to my, and I can get the 15-digit ID or the 18-digit ID. See, and it is automatically copied to my clipboard. See, the same ID. There are many other functionalities within this extension which I have built, and if you want to export the pick list values for the account object, for example, or any other standard or custom object, you can right click, it exports all the pick list values, it downloads it as a CSV file, you open it, and that's all. See how easy it is. It gives you the value, API names, the whether they are active, the default value, everything. The other use cases is, for example, if you want to compare two records. Okay, for example, this is one of the account of object, and I want to compare it with another. The usual way you would do is you would create a query. Maybe you would do Salesforce inspectors. For example, this is also really one of the best tools I use to query data and all other things. You would open here, you would write a query to select all the fields from account where account ID equals to this, where account ID equals to this. So, and then you will export it to a CSV file. And then you will go to the target org and you will open another account and query the same, and you will save it in an Excel file. Then you will do a VLOOKUP and compare the values. Instead of doing all this, which could take about maybe 20 minutes, you can use this extension. Just click here, select source record. It is fetching the records. Now it has parsed successfully. Now go to the target. So it doesn't have to be in the same org. It can be in any disconnected org as well. Select target org and see how easy it is. It will give you the differences in value, differences in the metadata as well. So for example, if the field, if the pick list value has different pick list values in different orgs, it will highlight it in yellow color. So this is the legend. So if the field is missing in target org, it would highlight in this color. Within less than 2 seconds, you are able to compare. So this is the power of creating extensions. And like I said, you create it once and use it on many other browsers as well. How much time, Rupesh, do we have? I can go on here.
Yeah, Maninder, we have another 10 minutes to go. You're doing good on the time.
Okay, so other functional other tools which I particularly use is, for example, there is another very good tool, Organizer. So if you so as a developer, what you want to do is you want to log in as another test user and see how the UI looks like, or whether the functionality is working fine or not. But if you use the standard Salesforce feature to log in as, what it would do is, if you have used it, it will log in into that test user, and when you log out, it will log in into the test user, but you cannot use your original account. To give you a demo, I will log in as here, and there is a Jazzy. You can search the name of the user and click on login as incognito, which is a private window. Okay. The powerful feature here is I can use this window as an admin and make changes here. Okay. On the other hand, I can use this private window to test the feature logged in as a test user. See, so I can work on both the users simultaneously, which is not possible if you use the standard login as feature from Salesforce. You can work only using a single user. Okay, you can close it. Yeah. The other functionality, this Salesforce Inspector is really cool, I would say. So for example, if you're on a detailed record, it will show you the record ID, even the record type it would show here. Okay, you can see all the data of that particular record. And the cool thing here is it will also show you the fields which you do not have access to. The reason for that is it is using tooling API. With tooling API, you can even retrieve the fields for which the active user doesn't have record access to. So for all the values for which unknown is shown, my user doesn't have access, but still I can see that the field is present, and I can export it into a CSV file and compare. If I want to compare the fields, it's really easy. I can make the, if I want to change a value here, I can just change it, save it. It will directly save it to my account record, the account record which I'm all working on. The other cool thing is, so suppose if you are working with the related lists, okay, for example, this record, let me open this. I click on show all data, it would show me all the data of this particular account record. And for example, I want to see all the contacts. So what you will do if you want to actually do the analysis, you would have to get the record ID of the account. You have to create a SQL query where with the fields of contact, where account ID is equal to this ID. It would take time. You can use this tool, just search contact. Okay. Contact is the name of the related list. So this is the contact, or you can say object. Click here, export related records. It will automatically create the SQL for you. Click on export. You have the data. You don't need to create SQLs. And this will have all the fields which are visible on the related list. For example, here it is showing ID, name, title, email, and phone. So if I go here, click on view all, it will show all those 4 fields. So this is how the coding is done for this tool, you can say. It is accessing tooling API, metadata API, REST APIs, even SOAP APIs you can use. You can do anything, like I said. And the other cool feature I would want to show is, for example, if you want to create a query for this particular record, which is a contact name, you don't have to open it. Right click here and create SQL. If you want to create a SQL with all fields, custom fields, editable fields, pick list values, formula fields. So if you want to create all the, if I want to create SQL with only pick list values, I just click here, SQL copied, open a notepad, and see. So this list, so this is a SQL query. Let me open again here, data export. I can directly paste it here and run it. See. So these are all the fields which are pick list in the contact object for that particular ID. So with the click of a button, I have built a SQL. Okay, and the other features are, for example, if I want to if you use Workbench a lot, you know that there is a limitation that you can log in into Workbench only one instance of a Workbench. For example, if you have dev, LQA, for example, given here, if I want to open my another dev, I can just click here and it will open another instance, which is also a developer edition. So I have 2 instances now. This is developer edition 1, this is developer edition 2. How I can differentiate? This is in red color, this is in orange color, which can all be set from this extension. Okay, and when I open Workbench, I can work only with one of this, correct? But there is a feature, there is a extension called multi-login, or the second one is session box. So if I click here, it would open a, you can say, independent session, so that you can work with different Workbench session within the same window. Okay, log in into Salesforce. I log in into one of this. Okay. So here I have logged in with Money BDC6, and I can click this button again and open Workbench, another instance of Workbench. And this time I would be logging into another developer edition org. And that you cannot do if you do not use this extension. So here, yeah, this is the other login. Let's see now. This is my one edition. This is my second edition. Okay, this is the verification code anyway. So, but you can do it, yeah. The other one extension which I found was SQL query. See here, Workbench Enhancer. This is not supported, or it is not, you can say, provided by Workbench, but someone has built this extension. So whatever you query here, for example, you query 100 records and click on query, the query would be stored in this browser, you can say the browser memory. And if I go to this Workbench, I can use the same query in that Workbench. So this is actually storing all your queries, and even it stores the async anonymous queries as well. So someone has built this extension. So, so this, I just want to show you that if even if the creator of Workbench is not providing some features, you can create a browser extension to help the users make their user experience even more better, or providing a functionality which is not supported. Yeah, that is all.
Maninder,
I mean, I have, yeah.
quick time check. So, sorry, you were wrapping up the session?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
giving a
yes,
time check.
yeah.
All right. So if you're done with it, then we can quickly take through the questions that I have from the audience.
Yes, sure.
All right. So first of all, thank you for this great session. It really, I think, had a lot of queries from the audience on how to go about it. So I think the first and the topmost question, which is common for most of the people, is can we get the GitHub link where all of this code is available so that they can learn more from it?
Yes, I haven't published the code, but I can share the link. I mean, this is the link to the repository.
Yeah, you can put it on the chat window so that everyone can take it from there.
Go with another question. I will post it.
Yeah, so the next one is around, can you explain the process of getting these extensions published on the Chrome?
Okay. Yeah. So for that, you have to register on the web store account, this is particularly for Chrome, and there is a one-time fee of $5 which you have to pay, which is for lifetime, with which you can publish 12 extensions at most, and it is a one-time fee. You have to register on this web store as a developer, and there what you have to do is just go to that panel. Maybe I haven't logged in. No, I haven't logged into as a developer. So when you go into that panel, you have to just upload this folder, this folder which I explained, which is the root folder having the manifest file and all the functionalities and files. Just create it a zip file, right click. So you can create a zip file and upload it there. That's it. And give some information into that in whatever is asked, and then it would go for security review with Google. Once it is reviewed, it would be shown in the web store. So there is a one-time fee for that.
Awesome. The next one is how to go about troubleshooting if we are starting something from scratch.
Yeah, so I would say I couldn't cover it due to the limitation of time, but there are a lot of YouTube videos and other blogs. Don't query specific how to create a Salesforce extension, query for how to create a Chrome extension. And then you would get to know how you can troubleshoot using, to give you an example here, if I go into extensions, more tools, extensions. So there is a background page, which I said, if I click on background page, it will open another window. Here I would see all the console.log. So I have done a console.log, I guess. So it is showing me everything. If you remember, I was getting the user info. See, this is my email ID. This is the organization ID. So I did console.log. This is here. And you can put in breakpoints here, like normal web development debugging which you do using breakpoint, JavaScript, and anything, inspect element. That all you can utilize here. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Maninder. We have another one, which is how does the security gets handled here? If you're integrating to any site which supports username and password or token-based authentication, in this case, how do we store the credentials?
Yeah, so you don't store the credentials, you use OAuth authentication, where you do not have to ask the user for username and password. So if you understand that, then you would know that the user has to particularly go in, put in his username, password, and allow access. So you can use any of the authentication supported in Salesforce to create extension. But the demo which I've shown you here is I'm actually getting the session ID of the logged in user. So which is easy way to do it because I do not have to go through building all the authentication flows. You don't store the username password. But yes, if you want to do store this, for example, organizer extension is storing your username password. I need to check that how this security is handled within the extensions.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have another one which talks about the security aspect. Is it safe to use browser extension because we can get the session from the cookie and make REST callouts? I'm not sure if it seems like it's happening without authentication. So please correct
Yeah.
if I'm missing anything.
So, no, that is correct. There are a lot of questions on the security of using browser extension in most of the companies. But I would say that since the code is, you can access the code of any extension from the browser or from the web store. You can go through the code. If you want to do a review for a company, go through the code. You can check which server API calls it is calling. Or what you can do is you can right click, inspect, and go to the network tab, and you would know what all API calls it is doing. For example, if I right click here, I will do Salesforce metadata, login into Workbench. Okay. Obviously, it won't show here because this is another. Let me do another one. If I go to Edge Communications and clear this, right click, maybe this would work. Create software all fields. I think I did not enable it. Yeah, so this is another way. I mean, you can see what all API calls are done. It can come in the network tab, but the best way is to review the code which the developer has shared, and you can know that whether the developer is calling any other server calls to share your information with himself. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any are there any other languages that are supported to create browser extensions?
I would say no. Basically, you have to develop in JavaScript. But yes, if you know any of the UI frameworks like React, Angular, or any other, if they support other languages, then it would work in Chrome in the browser extension as well. But basically, you have to develop it in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. But you can use other libraries.
Okay. We have a couple of questions from Payal, which talks about, are there any special characters issues when exporting the data into CSV format? And are there any record import export limits on this?
No, all record export import limits are based on the REST API limits. Okay. And if you want to overcome that, you need to find a solution how to call API, sequentially call REST API calls and other things. So all the not governor limits, but all the limitations of Salesforce REST APIs are valid here. And secondly, what was the other question?
Special characters issues. Are there any
Special
issues with
character,
the
yeah.
special characters?
Yes, that you have to take care. For example, the demo I showed you of dependent pick list metrics. Okay, that works only in English language. To work it, to make it enable it for other languages, I have to read the DOM, pass it, or maybe use any of the APIs to convert it. Yeah, you have to take care of that. There are special characters you should download or create a CSV file using UTF-8 encoding. So you can control the encoding. It all depends on the functionalities which you want to build and how good you are with JavaScripting and all these. Because even in JavaScripting, you can compare values or download values in ASCII codes, convert it into another encoding. So that depends on how you research on it. But yes, it can be controlled.
All right, I'll take last two questions before we wrap this up. So can you just briefly summarize the steps to learn and to start working on these extensions?
Correct. Yeah, I would recommend that go through one of the videos. You can, if you want to learn in detail, but I have given you the starting point particularly for Salesforce, how you can get the session ID and then do the REST API call. That is the most important thing. After you have the session ID or you do OAuth authentication, if you want to go through that, there is no limit on what you can do with the REST API or SOAP APIs. Okay, so you can use any of the YouTube tutorials, okay, or any of the blogs to learn how to build and debug an extension. Create a very simple one first, and then you can go through an advanced one. That's it. I would say going through one of the YouTube video and doing it practically, that is all you need. There is no other. I mean, I would say that is the best way. Once you know it, you would know the folder structure. I have explained you the architecture, and it will go on. It's not very, I would say, difficult to learn.
Okay. Thank you, Maninder, for all your answers. I think we have covered majority of those questions. There are few which are very trivial ones. We can get them answered through you in an offline mode. I'll share the list of pending questions, and probably you can tweet them out or post it on a blog or through your LinkedIn channel, whichever way you want to share it with your audience. But just for the sake of everyone, can you just mention your Twitter handle once? I think you're showing your screen. Yeah. So audience can take a note of your Twitter handle as well as your LinkedIn so that they can reach out to you for any specific queries which have not been answered on this. And I'll share the pending questions list so that I can get this to you.
Sure, thank you. And I would say I would be sharing the GitHub repository on my LinkedIn profile. So kindly note it down. I have to update it with the code and all, but I would surely share it on Twitter and LinkedIn. So make a note of it. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Maninder, for your time today. It was a great session.